Hey guys, welcome to the video and thank you for joining me. Now, I recently opened the Survivor Series Drew McIntyre figure, and I also recently said on a pickups video that I had picked up the rest of the series, and I really wanted to get those open quickly so they didn't add to the 115 figure, I think, NW opening pile, and that is why today I'm doing the first ever triple NW opening, Ultimate Warrior, Becky Lynch, and AJ Styles. We are going to get the entire rest of the series polished off. We are going to build ourselves a Rick Rude, although depending on the scale, I'm actually going to use it as a Mean Gene Okerlund body because I basically picked these up to get the Build-A-Figure parts cheaper than buying all of the Mean Gene with, but I digress. So let's start with Becky. Why not? It's got a little rip in the back of the box there. We will need to get her out of there. It's not a hospitable environment. As we can see, we've got the full wave there. Normally I say there's not too much of interest there, but I bought the entire wave, so it must be alright. And we get Rick Rude's arms with it as well. We got no information or anything on the back. We just got a picture of Becky holding the women's title. That does not come with this figure. Now, I'm not a massive fan of Becky. I don't really care for Becky one way or the other, but it never hurts to get some cheap extra ladies around for the DSW women's division. And quite frankly, I actually think this head is really good. I don't particularly care for the man character. I don't particularly care for this outfit, but this head is really quite good. And I guess these bodies are probably quite useful for customs. I mean, if you can get these things off the knees, that is. I have no idea how that's attached, but I suppose we'll work that out later. But I'm waffling on a bit already, and we've got 3 figures to open, so let's get into it. But first of all, as I say, we're going to be building a Rick Rude, so we need to bring out his legs. Let's also bring out Drew. Let's not have him feel left out. Okay, so let's get cracking on with the figure. So, first things first. Like I said with the Drew McIntyre opening, I quite like this Survivor Series backing card. It's actually pretty nice. We've got the 2 interchangeable hands with a tiny bit of miscut plastic on the end of both of them. And we got Rick Rude's arms, and it occurs to me that I really should have opened this in the order of building the Rick Rude. And I didn't really realise that the Build-A-Figures don't have double jointed elbows. I guess it doesn't really matter, but you know, kind of an L. So we've got Rick Rude's arms and legs there. On the note of double jointed elbows, I actually think this might be my first women's figure with double jointed elbows. I don't pick up a lot of them, and I definitely don't pick up a lot of modern ones, so I think it is. Now, there's a reason why I've paused her hand resting against the head as we come into the joint check, and that is because this shoulder is not good. Luckily, I've been playing around with shoulders recently and loosening stiff shoulders recently, and it is a fairly straightforward process, so we should be able to fix that up. In fact, I might do a little video on that. It's fairly straightforward, it's fairly obvious, but you know, I feel like it might be worth doing a video on anyway. As I say, you know, I feel like the head is the standout of the figure, but I mean, I don't feel like this was a particularly interesting outfit in the first place. It was always a kind of weird outfit for Becky to come out in, but I also feel like it hasn't translated into figure form very well. It's literally just red. The fishnets are kind of jazz it up a little bit, but it really is the head that's the standout for me. That's a pretty good likeness. It's a good expression and everything. And now we'll get into the joint check. As I say, this shoulder is just fucked. The swivel is fine, that elbow seems nice and tight, and the wrist is pretty good. Going over to the other side, this shoulder seems to be fine. It's a little bit, it's nice and stiff, that's good. We've got a very stiff elbow there, that's pretty nice. Normally I'll go from the top down, but I couldn't resist starting with that terrible shoulder. But the head's okay. It's not great, but it's better than the next joint, which you might have noticed as I've been going along. This is appallingly loose. This is terrible. This is ridiculous. The good thing about that is there is a fix for that. I can just take a loom band and put it over her and then basically work it into there and fix that up. Not great is it straight out of the packaging, and it doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence that I actually will keep hold of this figure, because if filming with it is going to be a pain, then I probably will just chuck it on eBay for whatever I can get for it. And let's take a look at some legs. So that moves fine. That knee is quite stiff because of that knee pad that really reinforces it. You definitely can take these off for customs, by the way. It's just a regular knee pad. I'm not going to do the thigh swivel, but we got the hip and the knee are fine there. The boot swivel is good. And when do you ever move the toes, really? But it does move, so that's better than some. Again, everything fine on that leg. It's really just this dodgy shoulder and this appalling ab joint. That's the issue there, I would say. I normally, of course, finish off these NW openings by talking about what the figures are going to do in my Fed. So I'll just sum that up now by saying I don't really have any particular plans for any of these. I am buying these for the sake of it. For the Build-A-Figure parts, really. I like to give a little bit of a review, but usually it's quite positive because I bought the figure for a reason. In this instance, I can be quite fair and say that the head scan on this is really good, but the rest of it doesn't do an awful lot for me. Although there are some perks to it that are quite interesting. This actual example of the figure itself is, the joints are just not great. That's not the figure's fault. That's just the way it is. It's just the way it happens sometimes with the way the game goes. So I can't really be helped. Overall, it's not a bad figure. It's not a great figure. It's, it represents Becky Lynch at a particular time in her career, and that's what figures are supposed to do. And next up, we'll get into the figure that we should have opened just now, which is the AJ Styles. So we can get the torso out for Rick Rude. So, let's get into him. So first of all, I will concede that this is a better figure than I really gave it credit for. The detail on this guy is really nice. So I kind of originally felt like it was just quite a generic AJ. Like, it's more or less the same head scan he's had 500 times. And the Ultimate Edition that's coming out has told us that, they can do AJ Styles heads a little bit more interesting. Now, this seems a bit more refined, a little more up-to-date than some of the other ones, and we don't have the forehead nominal problem. But the thing that I'm really drawn to is the Styles on his wrists, the decal, the P1 decal on his gloves. Of course, it's a nice quality of life upgrade that we've got double jointed elbow AJ Styles, so we can do this pose. Nice way to package it as well, by the way. The hand is just in a little bit of plastic, so it's not pressing against the shirt, and then the two hands are just banded up. But what as I say, I feel like this looks like the same AJ Styles we've had 1,000 times in green, in blue, in whatever color, in red even. But when you actually look at the decals, it looks so much nicer than some of those figures. Like this, I mean, we've got the raw elbow pads there as well. We got the P1 on the side there. That looks really good. We've got the nice lines down the side. They've come out really well. Got the phenomenal and the one on the boot. So got that one on the up thigh there as well. And then on the raw on this side, these raw trunks actually look really good. Now, I'm also not a massive fan of these rubber goods shirts, but this one is really tight. And, it's certainly possible that it might not be once I take it off him. But, usually these are quite loose. They're quite hard to clip together. That feels like it's really firm. And now we're going to have to try and get that elastic band off without hurting him and get into a joint check. So we just take that tiny bit of plastic off his hand. It's really cute. It's like a glove on a glove, Okay. Put your arms down, mate. You look silly. Now, I think this is me having jinxed myself, because when they first upgraded to double jointed elbows, some people were saying that they always had one shoulder that was a bit stiffer than the others, and in the last couple of videos I haven't had that problem. You know, like Vader, his shoulders were perfectly fine, etc, etc. And I feel like because I've said they must have solved that problem, now we're getting a problem with stiff shoulders again. But as I say, we do have a way to fix that. I am noticing that there are a bit of paint missing on the raw shirt. It's not a big deal because I don't really plan to use it, but you know, it's not ideal either. And I'm just going to pop that off while we do the joint check. So this is how AJ looks without the shirt on, and we'll just start checking these joints. So first of all, that head's fine. Maybe a little bit loose. We've got that elbow, that shoulder doesn't go all the way in, and to be honest, it's not terrible, but it's not tight either. We've got the swivel there. That elbow feels like it's okay, but it feels like it would be more loose if I took that raw elbow pad off, which I probably will. And the wrist is, yeah, it's okay. Torso joint, again, kind of like the head, it's kind of loose, but it's okay. You know, it can hold its shape. Got the AJ tattoo on his side there as well, of course. You know, I remember seeing a fan got this tattoo with, you know, like the dates of AJ Styles' kids' date of birth on it. That's just weird, man. It's just weird. Shoulder, that one's fine. Maybe a little bit loose there. Elbow's good. And that wrist is maybe a little bit loose. Got this leg. That's fine. And got this leg. Yeah, I think these are more or less fine, aren't they? Like, yeah, I think all the boot joints are fine. So now the moment of truth on the rubber shirt. Can we get it back on him and it still be, you know, tight fitting? Because I'll be honest, you know, like I say, I'm not a big fan of rubber goods, but the fact that they literally don't clip back together is quite often the issue. You know, that the hair mold isn't bad on this figure either. Like, it's not too bad. That being said, I can't say I really have much experience with any other AJ Styles head molds. I do actually have AJ Styles. I don't use them in my Fed, but I do actually have the one that, my second choice of AJ Styles. My first choice was the Network Spotlight white attire one, but I you know, it kind of hard to get one. It's clipped together fairly well. His hair's kind of in the way there, but I'm not just going to keep fiddling with this forever. Oh, maybe I am. There we go. Look at that. So that does fit back together. It's a little bit of a chore, but you know. So all in all, like I say, this is a surprisingly nice figure. This is a better figure than I was expecting. Better one than I gave it credit for. It's not the AJ Styles that I would want. I already have an AJ Styles that I plan to use, but I guess I wouldn't rule out using this because it's definitely not a bad figure. Otherwise, like I say, it'll probably end up on eBay with Becky Lynch, and that's more or less everything for that one. So, the only thing left to do now is to start assembling our Rick Rude. So we got the legs. Yeah, Rick James might need to pick up this Drew McIntyre figure to get these extra legs. What am I gonna do about my legs? So we're gonna slot this in here, and it doesn't want to clip in so easily. I mean, it's sliding in there, but it's not clipping into the joint. You know, as soon as you tug it, it just comes back out. I mean, it's not ideal, is it? If the guy's own suit is stopping him from, like, his legs attaching. Okay, well, I'm just gonna put the torso on it loose like that for the time being, and try not to move that too much. And I'm gonna put which arm is this? Yeah, that is the right arm. I'm gonna put his arm in. See, that's not clicking in either now. And like I say, I'm not going to fiddle around with it for ages, so I'm just going to have his arms out like this. This left arm actually clicked straight in, no problem at all. The legs don't seem to want to click in at all, and this arm just falls apart as soon as you move it. So, you know, that's not great, but yeah, I mean, it's also very inconsistent. The inconsistency is what's irritating me. But yeah, let's just move him over to the corner. Better pick up the entire figure since the legs are not actually attached. Oh, first of all, hold on a sec. Gotta give him his briefcase. I better put that in the hand that's actually clipped in. This hasn't gone particularly well, has it? Come here. There we go. Headless man intensifies. Oh, come on now. So, let's get into this one. Okay, so it says on the back that this only includes the heads of Rick Rude. So these extra hands are all meant to be for Ultimate Warrior. That's interesting. Now this figure I'm not a massive fan of. As I say, I really like the attire. I really like the decals and stuff on the trunks. The pastel colors kind of makes me think of like school cake or sweets or something, as I mentioned in the pickup video. But the head is doing absolutely nothing for me. I am probably going to head swap this because I probably will use an Ultimate Warrior. But the only Ultimate Warrior head I do have is on a basic of him in his green attire. I'm thinking the green face paint probably isn't going to work. But, you know, you never know. We might just look and see how it is. It's not like there isn't green on this one. And it's not like it isn't all brightly coloured and, you know, not necessarily, you know, it doesn't necessarily need a silver face mask to fit in with this attire as is. Again, just like Becky, he's pictured on the back with a belt that he doesn't come with. And yeah, let's get into this. Gotta be careful with the push out here as well, because we've got those tassels hanging out the back, but I'm sure we can't do an awful lot of damage to them. Oh, he's sealed in. The Ultimate Warrior is sealed into he's handcuffed into his icy prison. You know, you try and open 3 figures in one go, and all of a sudden every figure you open is a pain. Every single box we've opened had one tab that didn't want to clip, and then we've had these, you know, a few of them tied in and just absolutely refusing, those ties absolutely refusing to cut. Now, my initial impression with this figure is that it's actually so much better than I thought it was. I think I just saw that head scan and it just put me straight off anyway. But we've got the nice decals that I mentioned already. Then we've got the orange, yellow, and green tassels off the boots, which are really nice. Got the little silver tassels there as well. And we've got the pink and yellow on the side. We've got a little streak of purple in the middle of the wrist tape. That's good. We got these tassels are a little bit different. He's got a lot of colour going on in this one. And then when we turn around to the back of the figure, we've got the only survivor on the back, which is a nice touch as well. There is a lot of colour in this figure that you don't really notice at first. And it's really nice. It's a shame that they ruined it with this head mold. Now, I'm not sure if Ultimate Warrior has broke the mold from the other ones, and he's got a left shoulder that won't lie down, that won't fully flatten. To be fair, he's pretty buff. I don't expect it to go much further than that. I mean, you know, it's there. But I'm wondering if it's maybe the tassels around his arms that are making it so tight. But since they're going to be there throughout the match regardless, we don't really need to know how, you know, we don't really need to know what it's like with the tassels off, because the tassels aren't going to be off. So let's get into a joint check. Although first, now I've zoomed in on the head, I will say that the faces of these, as bad as they already are, the faces of these, there was a lot of them with like blemishes and stuff. This was the best one in the shop. And, you know, it seems to be more or less okay. A lot of them had like eyebrows mispainted, or just a bit of paint from the mask missing, or, you know, a bit of paint in the middle of the head or something. But yeah, so first of all, that head is in pretty good shape. The shoulder, nice and tight. I thought it was going to be too tight going out for a second there, but that's okay. That elbow is very loose. very loose elbow. Not like unusable loose, but it's not good either. Like that's just going to degenerate over time. That's the main problem with loose joints. It isn't like what they are now, it's what they are going to be. Again, that shoulder's okay. That elbow's pretty loose as well. That wrist isn't great either. And the shoulder, this one doesn't want to go out at all. So we're probably going to have to boil that as well. So that one doesn't want to go in or out. So that's good. Goes up and down though, at least. And the torso, good God. Oh, well, it worked in the end. That's nice and firm at least. I feel like I've forgotten the waist joint on all the others so far, but it's mostly because it hasn't moved while I've been fiddling with them. So I haven't really needed to. Leg. Knees maybe a little bit loose. He's got plenty of reinforcement there from his and we don't really have like a toe bend or a boot. We do have a boot swivel. We don't really have a toe bend in there. The tassels are kind of getting in the way. This leg, ooh, that's very stiff. I might boil that as well. That takes a bit of persuading. The torso does take a bit of persuading still, but that's mostly sort of worn in now, I think. That knee again feels like it's a little bit loose, but it might be okay. All in all, like I said, this is an absolutely beautiful figure. I feel like this would be my choice of Ultimate Warrior, like absolutely, if it wasn't for that goddamn head, which is terrible. I've never seen anyone disagree with that. So finally, we are going to pick a Rick Rude head to go on our Build-A-Figure. For me personally, I'm going beardy. But regardless, I'm going Mean Gene anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm going Mean Gene depending on the height anyway. Because I've no idea. I could see it going either way, but I don't know whether the Build-A-Figures are scaled or whether they all have the same, like, scaled to their height, or whether they all have the same, like, suit body. Even the Rick Rude head doesn't want to go in, but, you know, but just, you know, Jesus Christ, I just want this video to be over now. Okay, that's that done. We're going to stick him at the back. So, that is the NW opening of Survivor Series Ultimate Warrior, Survivor Series AJ Styles, and Survivor Series Becky Lynch. It's the assembly of our Survivor Series Build-A-Figure, Rick Rude, and Drew McIntyre is also here. And now we've done a slight review for each figure. Now let's do a review for the entire series. Now, I absolutely wouldn't have picked up any more than... I wouldn't have picked up any of this series. I didn't pick up any of the series until it was available for $8.33. Then I only picked up the Drew McIntyre because he was the only one available. Then they all came in stock in the Entertainer, and I thought I may as well. I was going to bottle it. I was going to not bother, but then I realised if, you know, I might be able to use this as my Mean Gene body. I'm looking at him scaled to AJ Styles, and he's looking pretty tall. I can't really remember how tall Rick Rude is meant to be. I could just have a really tall Mean Gene, but I'm probably not going to do that. He's, you know, he is looking kind of tall, isn't he? It definitely might not work. But I think as a Build-A-Figure, the Rick Rude is interesting, but for me personally, it's the heads that are more interesting than anything. I know some people will appreciate having a suited Rick Rude, but I don't particularly care. This Ultimate Warrior is kind of ruined by the head. The AJ is still a bit generic, but it's a really good iteration of that generic. And the Becky Lynch, I don't think it's the most exciting figure in the world, but it's definitely not bad. The head's pretty good. The Drew McIntyre is a straight redo. It's not an amazing set, but it's not the worst Build-A-Figure set they've done. I definitely wouldn't have bought any of these if they weren't £8.33, but you make them £8.33 and suddenly, you know, I feel like they're all worth it, even if I'm just trying to get the big Build-A-Figure parts. So, you know, it's, like I say, it's not the worst Build-A-Figure wave they've done. If you enjoyed this video, please do check out the NW opening playlist. Do like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.